Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 103 of the All in Football Fantasy Premier League show and podcast. I'm your host, the self proclaimed FPL guru, and joining me today are my usual suspects of Scott Williams and Barry Stokes. Barry, where in the world are you today?
I'm in Bristol.
Oh, big, nice. What are you doing down there?
Seen a few quarries as expected. I spent the Monday and this morning in Wales. So yeah, it was quite nice to go back to my roots.
Felt right at home, mate. I bet. Felt right
Yeah.
at home. Scott, how are you doing? How's your new TV stand?
That's good, yeah. It's going well, yeah. Finally did some adulting yesterday, so I'm out of football for a couple of weeks, so I thought, you know what, I'll go to IKEA and get building some flat pack, which I do weirdly enjoy. So yeah, it's going all right, yeah.
Scott is injured for the first time since he broke his foot 7 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Where you
yeah.
trailed
It's
around
hot.
Amsterdam on a stag do with a boot on, which was
Yeah, I
um,
did, yeah. So it's been quite tough for me at the minute. So I've got probably another couple of weeks on the sidelines, which I'm hating.
yeah. We'll rest up and get well soon. Don't forget, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms: All of Our Pod, All of Our P, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Get on that TikTok hype. We've had several thousand views on Scott Williams calling the Everton win over Liverpool. And just so you know, Cully wasn't salty at all when he said, well, Scott finally got one right when I spoke to him at goals on Thursday. I was like, oh, you salty boy. Because it was
Is
funny.
it wrong of me to kind of help Liverpool lose the league by 2 points? Because Cully was like, yeah, it didn't matter anyway, we're out of it. Even though we know damn well if they'd won that game, they're still in with a shout to win the league. So I kind of hope they lose it by 2 points.
Of course they are.
He don't
So
listen to the pod anyway, so.
No, he doesn't. Well, he needs some tips to try and win his work league from here, as he always does at this time of year. But yeah, social media platforms, thank you very much. Follow us on there. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also give us 5 stars where you get your podcast from. Right, let's get on with a couple of league admin situations. So, the manager of the week for game week 34. I know we are pretty much done with game week 35, but there's one fixture left at the time of recording, Chelsea Spurs with a double game week. But we hadn't finished game week 34 when we did our last podcast. And it would be so wrong of me if I didn't shout out David Tomlinson. Game week rank 1,577th in the world out of 11 million managers, 178 points. With his free hit, and it just goes to show. I mean, when it comes down to chip strategy at the end of the season, we'll all end up looking at it and going, unfortunately, the right thing to do was free at 34, wildcard 35, bench boost 37, wasn't it? And obviously, a lot of people free it in 29, a lot of people wildcard at 31, bench boosted in this game week of 34. It wasn't like there weren't any points around. They didn't fall on the to the lap of the bench boosters, but
It was
yeah.
just too many of the people that you had, like Palmer and Haaland, all injured.
Yeah.
So that didn't help matters.
Just completely killed the bench boost, didn't it? With Palmer's getting Cole Palmer getting a cold. So yeah, Pickford in goal with 18 points, Saliba with 14, Kilman and Verge both only getting 2, but Branthwaite with 20 points. What a hero. Eze, Havertz, Saka and Foden in the midfield, Solanke and Mateta captain for 58 points. Fair play. What an absolutely cracking week. So we'll hold off for now on manager of the week for game week 35. There is one game left, but there's also one game left for the manager of the month award for April, and it's the closest manager of the month race across a number of players we've had all season. It's been two horses, 3 horses at times, but we've got Richard Kirk, who's obviously top of the league at the moment. Well done to you, Richard, with 394. Christopher Barras, who is currently manager of the week, Baz, I think.
Yeah, but by 19, so you might as well say he's manager of the week.
Wow, Christopher Barras will be manager of the week, so well done to you. 90 points this week, also on 394. He's behind on transfers made so far. And Rory Kelly on 393, Jack Tomlinson 391, friend of the podcast Guy Ferguson on 391 as well. Steve Cousins, 387, having a really good week. Dan in the Fimi, 383. And the All in Football podcast team on 382. Look at us having a decent month for Dave Byrne on 380. And even the Tomlinsons, David Thomas 379, 378, sorry, it's really close. But a couple of these guys at the top have got players to play tonight. So it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top, but nice and close. So focus on the league overall. Richard Kirk has steamed clear now with only 3 game weeks to go of Ali Farrell. There is 41, no, wrong, bad maths, Alex. 20, 30, 40, 50, no, that's right, isn't it? 41 points. God, good maths, Alex. 41 points. Back yourself, lad. Between Richard Kirk and Ali Farrell. And then only 7 points further back is Marco. Callum Burnett, long-time leader, has dropped off now. And unfortunately, sorry, Callum, 64 points off the top. So probably a little bit too much to make up at this very moment in time. So getting close, getting tight. Between the three of us, it's quite tight, I think, still, isn't it? I've got 2,053. You've got 2,072, and Scott's got 2,030. So 42 points between us all across the season.
And the pod as well.
Yeah, Pod's only 9 points behind Scott. So it's
got a bench boost left. It's all right.
Bench boost left. Have you got 3 hit left, Baz?
No.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, I've got 3 hit left as well for 37 probably going to be used. So yeah, nice and tight. Let's have a chat about the remaining game weeks. My feeling about this game week 36 is, and I listened to a podcast and I really like the Always Cheating podcast, which is the lads in America do. I listen to it from time to time, and they described it as the forgotten game week, and I kind of agree with them. Because everyone's talked about free hits 34 and wildcard 35s and maybe bench boost 37. Obviously, last game, and game week 36 has just kind of got overlooked. And I don't envisage there being a mass amount of transfers this week, but there are some pretty good fixtures for our teams that we've been showing our loyalties towards with our transfers. Baz, I'll come to you first. What's your plan this week for your team? Considering especially you're going to be free hitting 37, have you thought about your transfers yet?
I have, yeah. It depends on. I've got 2 injuries in defence, with Williams going off injured against Man City, and then obviously Gusto's potentially injured as well. So, but I don't really want to use a defensive one. So it's one of them. Like I don't really want to, but I might have to. So I think that's probably what I'll be doing. Either Williams or Gusto.
To be fair, it's probably VAR's fault that Williams got injured or something. And if he played for a top 6 club, it wouldn't happen to him, or whatever he moaned about after that game, which is one of the most pathetic interviews I've ever seen from a footballer. There is a reason you didn't succeed at Liverpool. I lost so much respect for him off that interview. I actually really liked watching him as a footballer. I know you'd obviously as a Welshman, but wow. Just wow. What a defeatist, horrible attitude. I'm with Scott 100%. Get Forest down. Get them out of this league, and then they could have a moan about it. Anyway, but yeah, it's interesting you say about I don't want to use a defensive transfer. It's a really, really important point and thing to say as someone who's played FPL for a very long period of time now. You can sit someone in your second and third bench positions now if they're injured. Just leave them. You can ignore them. It doesn't matter. You're not building for the future. It's important now that you spend those transfers. You've only got a finite amount left. You spend them in places where you're going to be getting the biggest upside. Because we're not looking at long-term transfers now. We're looking at short-term transfers. We're looking at quicker wins. We're looking at these next 3 fixtures and how we're going to go about maximising them. So for you, Baz, you're looking at the same as me, 36 and 38. These are the 2 fixtures I'm looking at. For Scott, you're looking at all three fixtures. What club stands out at you, Sky, that you're looking at getting a team?
Yeah, one massively stands out with me, and that's our Geordie friends. Newcastle really does stand out. They've got Burnley away, double game week. Don't be too put off by the redness that is around Man United away. We know there's goals to be scored at Old Trafford. On Brentford away, there's not impressed me at all. Brentford the last few weeks, they've stayed up now. They're going to be they seem like they're on the beach already. So I think that's going to be an easy fixture for them as well. They've put some form up as well. Obviously the loss to Palace was a bit of a surprise, but other than that, they've a bit of a weird game actually. Sheffield United, they could have been 2 or 3-0 down at half time, but the second half performance was frightening from them. From what I saw in the highlights, which the battered Spurs a couple of weeks ago. If you've not got Alexander Isaac in your team, get him in. He's someone I brought in last game week, and he's I was very close, as we know in our chat, very close to captain, and then was going to until Alex convinced me otherwise. So that was great. I made so many errors this week, but I might still scrape for in the cup. Someone else I'd be looking at for Newcastle would be Anthony Gordon, without a shadow of a doubt. But someone, and I'm going to maybe spoil the person that you told us to do. I don't know if you want me to or not, but there's someone that's really stood out, and I got him in draft this week, Bruno Guimaraes. I've been really impressed by him and his returning points. And he is low. He would be a serious differential. He's under 5% owned. If you wanted to go a little bit different to Gordon, for me, I've got Dan Burn in defence already, Dubrovka and Isaac. But if I didn't have 3 Newcastle, I would be looking at Gordon, but I wouldn't be looking too far away from Bruno Guimaraes as well. But yeah, going to your original question, Newcastle for me jump out. Other than your obvious team, you've probably got 3 Arsenal players already. We've got nice fixtures to win the league. You've potentially got 3 City players already. Newcastle are bleeping out at the moment.
Does it worry you about the fact that 3 of them are away from home of the 4 fixtures? Only because their home and away form is such a big contrast. And I know there's a lot going around about the fact Anthony Gordon's only scored 1 goal away from home all season. I don't buy into the narratives too much that, he can't play away. But it's does that worry you a bit because Newcastle is such a home bird?
Yeah, I would say it's something you've got to consider. But that's again why I've looked at actually who are they playing away. Look, Burnley away is going to be a tricky game. They're fighting for their lives. Just really quickly, that was another thing I got right. I think we were all you two or you were relegating them a few weeks ago. And I went, no, Burnley out of this year, and they've clawed their way back into it very well. But they're obviously scrapping for their lives. Man United away, I wouldn't be worried about. I think Burnley away is not necessarily for winning the game, but for maybe scoring. I think Burnley away is trickier than Man United away. And then, like I said, Brentford away, I think they're going to be on that beach. Last game of the season, we know there's goals everywhere last game of the season. So it is something I would consider. If these were like 6 weeks ago, I would say, yeah, I think you've got to really consider it. But because we're coming to the end of the season, because one of them Man United away and Brentford on the beach, I wouldn't. And that Brighton at home fix is really juicy, I think.
There's 2 things about the home and away that I want to touch on before, because you've mentioned Burnley. I did a bit of research on Burnley, so I will sort of cut in on that as well. But the away form for Newcastle, 16 games, 4 wins, 2 draws, 10 losses, 26 goals scored and 34 conceded. So I'd be nervous about the double defence in those games. But the attack, they still seem to be scoring goals, so it's not a massive worry, I don't think, in terms of actually putting the ball in the net. I did look at Burnley because we talked about, let's say, they thought they were down, done, and gone, and then we did mention that the signing of someone like Fofana meant that they'd be able to put the ball in the net. I'm very critical of Vincent Kompany's tactics at the beginning of this season, and I hate the narrative in football when they go, oh, but he sticks to his guns, and this is his philosophy, and this is his style, and this is what he does. Doesn't matter if you lose and you get relegated and you lose your club a load of money and then they go down, really, does it that much? Let's be honest. And actually what I really like about Rob Edwards and Luton is that he's adapted within different games. I think he's been really, really intelligent. Actually, I've got to give Vincent Kompany credit over the past, since maybe game week 28. He has quite noticeably changed his style in terms of he stopped playing out from the back as much and he started playing more long balls. So in the statistics that I had, that I wanted to look at and digest were the I think 2/3. It was about 2/3 to 3/4 of their passes. I think it was like 2/3 to 3/4 around about were in the first 2/3 of the pitch beforehand, and most of them were happening in their own final third. Their goalkeeper was playing way more short passes, and they were trying to do this build-up play from the back. What they've done in the last few game weeks is punt the ball longer, like get up the pitch and get away from their own goal more. And it's made a massive difference. It's made a real noticeable difference. They have stopped trying to play as much tiki-taka, and they've played, just a bit more common sense long ball. And it's made a big difference.
But
I
like
agree
the
with
old Burnley.
Yeah, channeling Sean Dyche, looking across a manager that's keeping his team up after like 9 points deduction. But if you've got a target man like Fofana, why wouldn't you? But yeah, if you look at the like you say from game week 28 onwards, you look at the expected goals against. For most, a couple of games over 1 goal, but most of them under a goal. The game weeks before, you're looking at 2, 2.5, 3 goals. So yeah, he's really shored them up, hasn't he?
He's used his head. He stopped being so arrogant and trying to play his way and play like Man City because they just can't do it. And they've done. I've got to give him credit because I think he's really changed and done the right thing. And I mean, Pickford's played the most long balls this season out of any player in the Premier League for a reason, because that's how it is. Sean Dyche, how he plays, and look it's like stop overcomplicating it. Rule number 1: get the ball away from your own goal, and then you'll concede less chances. But they've just used their common sense.
Yeah, and I think we forget where we always say, City always play out. Like, and I think he gets masked sometimes just because he is a ridiculously talented goalkeeper at distribution. But Addison goes along a lot. Yeah, it's not maybe a classic long where you're looking for Haaland. Sometimes he does, but sometimes they are just like the ones to the left and the right. But Man City don't always go long. They pick and choose the moments. And I think if you watch the City game at the weekend against Brighton, was it? When Brighton tried playing out and just got caught, and then you've conceded the goal and the game's over. So yeah, he's used his noggin, and he's made it interesting last 2 games of the season. That Burnley Forest game, last game of the season, for me, potentially interesting one.
Could be really tasty, couldn't it? Baz, to come back to you on Newcastle, because I did want to make sure we had a good discussion about them. Your take on the best assets, but and does the home and away thing frighten you? But also pick the bones out of the defence. Who's playing? Who do we pick?
It's difficult because obviously I picked Livramento the other day on my wild card draft, and then he didn't play, and then Kraft played, and then I thought I'll pick Kraft in my differential draft because I fancied a 0%, and he didn't play, and then Livramento played. But I think what they played against Sheffield United, I think that they should stick with that. Lewis Hall at left back, Byrne and Shaw in middle, and then Livramento right back. I mean,
Shaw's injured now, though, isn't he? He's got hamstring injury.
Yeah. So yeah, it's probably not going to be that then.
I don't know who's playing centre half. Is Dummett fit? Is he gone as well? This is what I mean. Who's playing?
Probably,
would Kraft come in and play? He's a pretty tall lad, isn't he?
Yeah, Kraft might play centre half actually. I don't think he trusts Dummett that much. So yeah, so Kraft could be the option because he was playing there quite recently, wasn't he? So yeah.
Yeah, he's featured and he started all the 4 games before you picked him for differential draft, and then he came in at halftime, and then was that for Shah? This might help.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, right. So there you go. So it looks like Kraft will play. So we're thinking the back four is going to be Livramento, Kraft, Byrne, and Hall with Dubravka behind. So they're complete B team back 4 except for Dan Byrne, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, that could be an interesting. So it's one of them where if you've got double Newcastle, it's a bit. I'm a bit unsure about that. I'm unsure about obviously starting Dubravka, but obviously I've got Henderson as my other keeper, so I don't know which way to go around that. Regarding going forward with the midfield, it's like Barnes came on and did well. So is he gonna start over Murphy now? So he could be a potential good shout going forward as well. But it's going to be a big game, Man U and Newcastle, because they're playing for the 6th spot.
Yeah,
so yeah, it's going to be very interesting either way, whatever way that goes. So yeah.
I find it obviously if we're talking about main fantasy here, it's it's Isak, Gordon plus potentially one more. I think Burn's still quite good value at 4.6. He's obviously going to be nailed. Dubravka, it feels like, is probably going to be the keeper for the rest of the season, judging by comments from Howe. I just don't know about Pope's on the grass, but are they going to risk him? I don't know. So it's probably Gordon, Isak plus one of the others if you want 3 of them. And then what you're talking about with Barnes, for an example, and Scott talked about Bruno Guimaraes. I like those picks. They're very draft picks for me rather than main. But I think the real difficulty is, isn't it? Like, let's be honest, you can't fit another midfielder in other than Gordon, can you? Because the midfield options are just City and Arsenal players and Cole Palmer. So it's just difficult, isn't it? Really, to put any more players in.
Well, you've probably got Saka, and you've got Saka and or Havertz and Odegaard, haven't you? And then you've probably potentially got 2 City in there, maybe a cheeky Gordon in there. So there's not a lot of wiggle room. Midfield has certainly been the strength position this season. I know, was it last season or maybe the season before when it was definitely defence?
Yeah, big at the back every time. Yeah.
Yeah, but this one's definitely been heavy midfield. Like I said, I think with not having a couple of seasons ago, we had like Lukaku, Harry Kane, and Ronaldo as well, didn't we? So there's a lot of striking options. But yeah, I hope next season like some clubs buy some more strikers, because it felt like for 3/4 of this season we've been light up top. There's been a few strikers that have come up towards the end of the season as options, but it would be good to have some more options.
This season's sorry, Baz.
I think Havertz will probably change back to a striker.
Yeah, I agree.
So he'd be another potential option if you wanted to gamble on the Havertz.
It's been a weird year. I mean, Cole Palmer's kind of broken the game because of how cheap he is, and he's the easy midfielder to put in. You know, Mo Salah's injuries, AFCON, Haaland's injuries, whatever, Kane leaving, there being no value in defence whatsoever, other than I think Trippier and Trent both had about 5 games each where they were worth having. It's been the most. It's just been so easy to navigate, really, but like budget wise this season, and I think there's been a bit of bad luck on the FPL side from that perspective. But also, yeah, I mean, we spoke about this with Guy Ferguson, didn't we? The values have got to go up next year of quite a lot of these players to make it more difficult.
I think if you look at the defence options as well, I think this weekend just gone, they broke the all-time Premier League goals in a season, and we've still got like 3.5 game weeks left or whatever. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, a lot of that's down to the length of time we're having in games now, obviously, a big factor. But yeah, when we say VAR are rolling goals out,
well, this is it, isn't it? Let's not talk about VAR today, shall we? Let's have a brief chat on Arsenal, really briefly, because you've just said about the 3 players to bring in. If you haven't got these Arsenal players in your team, you think it's just a no-brainer. You need to get Saka, Havertz, and maybe one of the defenders in, lads. So you need that's your priority transfer this week.
Yeah.
Because I'm contemplating getting rid of because I think Williams is going to be out for a while. I think his hamstring. So I'm actually going to gamble and probably go for Tomiyasu.
Yeah, no, he seems pretty nailed on.
Yeah, he does.
Tomiyasu doesn't.
He's 4.2 or 4.3 million. So yeah, so
I really like him. Like I had him in draft, I think, last season, and he was flying, and then he got that bad injury, didn't he? I think he's a very good player.
4.5.
Yeah, he is, and again, he's a 0.3% differential. You know, on the list of players that you would have. You know, but going into this week in terms of differential draft, it's when you're looking at other options, Zinchenko doesn't seem like he's remotely nailed on anymore, and he never has been for ages, has he? And Kivior was the backup, but it just seems like he's not being picked either. So, yeah, priority transfer, get him in and get it done. A lot of people, like you say, Scott, will have 3 Arsenal players anyway. we're looking at Man City, Wolves at home, double game week with Fulham and Spurs, and then West Ham. There's so many goals for City. I think the big question is more to do with, do you go all in, proverbial to the wall, Foden, Haaland, De Bruyne, or do you go for a defender in with them, considering we have such a lack of defensive options? And if you are going to go for a defender, are we looking at Mr. Ortega as a goalkeeper at 3.7? Now Edison's going to be out for the season. That could be a transfer in. Are we looking at Kyle Walker, club captain? What's your approach towards Man City for the rest of the season?
The Ortega shout is not a bad shout for someone like me. I'm looking to bench boost in 37. So they do double. They got a tricky double, pull them away, Spurs away. But I've currently got a non-playing keeper. So actually, that would be a really smart transfer for me, getting him in for Keller. So yeah, I wouldn't usually be like going too crazy about a City defender because a lot of them rotate and they don't keep clean sheets anymore. And to quote one of your favourites saying, like Foden, Haaland, De Bruyne, they've got massive ceilings. So yeah, if I was, look, the fun thing to do is to have them free, isn't it? And just sit back and enjoy the last few games of the season, really. Haaland took his goal really well at the weekend. He, just typical Haaland goal. De Bruyne looks like he's back on it. 11-9, 2. Disappointing 2 in a 5-1 win at home to Luton. Only got 2 points, but 18 points the game before. He looks like he's back on it. He's playing fantastic football. And Foden's just Foden, just keeps ticking over. Obviously, he didn't play at the weekend. It's a bit of a weird one, actually. I didn't realise he's not actually played. He's only played 1 in the last 4 Premier League games, actually. Didn't realise that until I just saw that. So that's quite strange. But the two games he's played in the last 5, he's got combined returns of 36 points. So he is one that you'd be silly not to have in. You keep saying it. City have only got the Premier League to go for now, so you'd assume if Foden's fit, he's playing. There's no. He's going to have plenty of rest now. So yeah, the fun thing to do would be to get those 3 in, but potentially. It does free up if you're in a position like me to get another cheap keeper and to get Ortega in. But I wouldn't love it because I don't think he's keeping any clean sheets.
I mean, they did keep 2 cleaners in the last 2, didn't they? Both away from home. And this is where I'll mention Kyle Walker's got 14 and 8, 2-9.
I will just say I don't know how they get to clean sheet against Forest, but yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Well, Chris Wood, VAR tripped him up twice, I think. Wouldn't have happened if he was in the top 6, that's for sure. Baz, I want to ask about your team because you're sat there at the moment with, combine this with your thoughts on City, everything we've just touched on. I want to get your take on, but you've also got Mr. Salah there, so you've got one of the easiest transfers ever. Salah out, De Bruyne in. If you wanted to do it, is that top of your list? Talk about City from your perspective.
To be honest, it is top of my list, but I'm like, can I play Totti, Taylor, and Branthwaite in the next game? So plus Taylor obviously didn't play, so it's like
he got dropped, didn't he? I did hear that on the radio for like a strike.
So I'm like, and I might have to do a defender, but obviously Timber's coming back as well, isn't he? So Tommy Aster's probably going to play this week, but then is Timber going to play the next couple?
I'd be surprised if he got injured in the first game of the season. I'd be shocked if they changed that defense with like a few games to go. I'd honestly be shocked.
Yeah, I'd agree with
that. So for me, that's what my target would be: Haaland, Foden, and KDB, 100%, and get rid of Salah, especially with his love affair that he had with Klopp. But we'll just leave it as that. So
I think it's the most overblown thing I've ever heard, though. I mean, you can see them have a little bit of back and forth, and that was like, that's all. It's all right.
I think it was just for show.
They'd square up to each other, didn't they? Well, the thing is, Klopp talks to people like really aggressively, doesn't he? Anyway, and I think sometimes it just gets a bit down, a bit wrong.
Did you hear what Nuno said about it?
No, go on. What
Because
did
he got
Darwin say?
asked about it, and he said he missed it. So what he said.
Oh dear, it's not going to improve his finishing, is it? As Carragher says. So, but would you look, Baz, if would you look at any of the defensive options for City, or do you think it's get all out attack and go see them win a league?
It's the last 3 game weeks. You might as well go full blown, go attacking. Don't bother looking about defense unless you have to, potentially like I have to. And just go out, all guns blazing, just go out attacking. Like obviously my defense, as we talked about, my most expensive was 4.3. But obviously then I had to change that because obviously now I've got Totti in because I had someone else was injured. So yeah, so for me, straight up, don't bother with defense. Just try and obviously finish on a high. Try and obviously get whatever you want to get out of FPL. Do you want to win your potential mini league? Do you want to obviously beat your mate? Do you want to obviously improve your overall rank? Whatever you want to get out of it, just obviously go out, go guns blazing, and just do that for me.
I mean, I look at your team, Baz, and I know you don't want to take any -4s, especially when it's only going to be for 2 game weeks because you've got a free hit for the other one. So it kind of feels a bit counterintuitive to take a -4, but it's worth it if for example, Williams, Gusto, and Taylor aren't going to play. So you're taking a hit to make sure you've got a player playing that you think might get a return. Yours is Salah and Williams out for De Bruyne and like Ben White all day long, is it, or something like that? Like
I can't afford Ben White, or I'd love to have Ben White.
You can if you sell Salah for De Bruyne. You got 3 million quid.
Oh yeah,
You're laughing.
Yeah.
That's. I look at this team and I just think
you're twisting me arm, Alex.
That's what I do. But you know, I'm the hit machine this year. I think.
Yeah, you are.
It's not really helped me, but whatever. I don't think anything's helped me. I think we've all had the most bang average FPL seasons going. It's considering we're all about, if you can both throw a blanket over all 3 of us in the middle of the league, I think it's kind of how it's worked out for us all, isn't it? Sorry, Scott, I'm lingering on your bench on the screen now. I didn't mean to do that to you.
Oh, cheers, pal. Yeah, good time.
Apologies. So a couple of other teams to mention, notable mentions. We've got Brentford, who have got a couple of good fixtures. We've got Everton, who've got a couple of good fixtures. They've been keeping a couple of clean sheets as well. Anyone from those 2 teams that you'd look at? I mean, I know Pickford and Branthwaite have obviously done really well for Everton. Brentford, are we looking at still? I mean, I know Mbeumo's didn't have the best game last week, but he's been on form. I know we discussed these guys last week. Anyone still on your radars, Baz, from those teams?
I think defensively, just for Everton, really, and goalkeeper, even though you're not really going to go for anyone in really midfield for him because there's too many options in midfield and definitely not going to touch the strikers. So the only one that I would be thinking of is the one that you were just clicking on, McNeil. He hit a thunderous shot there at the crossbar. It looks the only one that's going to be dangerous for Everton. So for me, it'd be him. But like I say, 5.4 million. Palmer's what, 6?
Yeah, 6.1, I think now, but still, it's just ridiculous, isn't it?
So you won't be wasting one on him.
Let's talk about these teams let's just talk about from a draft perspective, because I think we're never going to buy him in May, no way now. If you're sat there in draft, Scott, you've got a couple of game weeks left. You've got Luton, Sheffield United, and obviously then you can get rid of them. You're not taking hits to get rid of these players. For the next 2 game weeks, do you feel like an Everton defender, maybe even a Tarkowski, might not be owned in draft? I think Branthwaite will be in a lot of drafts. Maybe a Young, a McNeil. Are these the sort of players that you might look to bring in that format of the game?
Yeah, without show of a doubt. I've been super impressed by Everton. I think they're looking like a Sean Dyche team at the back, like really hard to break down. And I think Pickford's in some real good form, which is what we want to see before a big summer for England. So he gets a lot of crap sometimes, but as a one-off shot saver, a lot of these are made better in the league. I really don't. So yeah, I like the Branthwaite. I like Branthwaite anyway. I think he's a great player. But yeah, Tarkowski as well. I watched the game. I watched the last couple of games, played Liverpool and Brentford, and he looks so dangerous from corners. He always has, to be fair, Tarkowski, but he looks a real asset back there. So yeah, I wouldn't be opposed. Like we say, like I wouldn't be looking at even in draft. You've probably got a strong midfield, but everywhere on the game you've probably got a weak defense because it is. But I would look at a defender. Yeah,
4 clean sheets in 5, man. Just so good, isn't it? And the only
So-
one they didn't was a random 6-0 spanking by Chelsea, which is what I
the
mean.
form's
Chelsea,
the
Chelsea.
form's mad, isn't it? When you look at it, like they've been on a good run now, and then they went on an horrendous run,
Oh, they
like
did.
without winning a game. And
Look at
but then
this.
prior to that, there was on a good run.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. From game week 18 through to 31, they didn't win a game, and then at the beginning of the season, they started really well. It shows the points deduction obviously did affect them. I mean, like it must be you'd have thought, bring everyone together and push forward, but actually they had a really bad run of results after it for a long period of time.
I forgot how bad the start of the season. A home loss to Fulham, Villa away is whatever, but then a home loss to Wolves, and then only draw Sheffield United. Ugh, horrible start to the season. And then a couple of games later, they lost at home to Luton.
From a Brentford perspective, I think we're looking, aren't we, Reguilon potentially, and these guys are all getting draft players. Not really people we're going to be looking at bringing in main, but yeah, and Boomer and Visser will probably be owned in that format of the game anyway. But just the options, I think.
Plus, as well, you've got to look at who's got things to play for. So Sheffield United got obviously relegated. So do they want to finish strong, or are they just going to whimper out? Burnley assets maybe, because obviously they're potentially going to try and stay up, so they're going to try and do the most to win games. Everton potentially still around there. Forest as well. Luton. So there's a couple of teams that you'd be looking at if you wanted to get some draft players in, because they need to win games. So same with Newcastle as well, but obviously most of Newcastle assets will probably be taken anyway. So yeah, so that would be another one to potentially look at if you're struggling for draft players to pick. Just have a little punt on them. What's the harm?
Like even with Everton being safe, I think they are safe now, right? Everton.
Yeah.
I would still, just because of the form they're on, would look at them. But I agree with Baz. Brentford, Brighton come to mind. Teams I would not be investing in because they're just on the edge.
Well, Brighton was the next team I was going to kind of skip over. They've got a double in 37 for people that are looking at bench boosting. I wouldn't look at those guys either way. They've got Man United and Villa either side of there. They've got 3 home games to finish off the season. Chelsea and Newcastle, just awful fixtures really, and they're not. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, that Man U Brighton game last day of the season. If Man U are like just kind of guaranteed 7th, I mean, it could just be like an 8-all. You just don't. You literally don't know what could happen in that game. It would just be ridiculous. Yeah, anything can happen. The other team that doubles that I kind of want to skip over is Spurs, because no one's really going to buy them before players for Liverpool away. Never mind what Liverpool's form is. You're not going to do that. Even you might look at them in 37, so we'll probably look at them next week for the 2 home games. And Man United, if you you a Bruno Fernandes owner then, Scott, this week?
Yeah, I brought him in and he did nothing. Sometimes he's gone 8, 9, 15, 18 and thought, nah, can't be bothered. I'm just gonna do nothing against Burnley at home.
It's yeah, well, we got 2 bonus points. I still don't really know how that happened.
I don't
really.
know that. It was contributed nothing to any of the goals.
1-1 against 2 bonus points. Yeah. Jury's out of Man United if you want to have a gamble on them. I've got to give you a bit of credit there, Baz, in terms of the shout out for Maguire. He's looking more dangerous from set pieces. He has returned in a few matches recently. Obviously scored in that infamous FA Cup tie against Coventry with a good header. So he's the sort of player that, again, cheap at the back, has a goal threat. So, and he's dirt cheap. So again, in draft is a player I actually might consider bringing in myself. Just for this game week, but who knows?
You can't, mate, 'cause I've already got him.
Oh, have you got him in draft? There you go.
I brought him in last week for his clean sheet at home to Burnley.
Went well. Right, so let's we're looking at the last 3 games of the season. I think I wanted to do a differential pick across the three of us. So one player each to see who we think is going to be the top scoring player who is under 5% owned over the rest of the season. And the order of the differential draft league at the moment is Baz top me second, Scott third, I think. I'm pretty sure that's right, isn't it, Baz? So I think it's only right that Scott gets to pick his player first.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to stick with what I've said already. I'm going to stick with Bruno Guimaraes.
I think it's a good shout. I'm going to go for this guy, Madueke.
Yeah.
Am I taking him, Baz? Were you going to go for him as well?
He was on my list, but he's not the one.
He's not the one. Oh, okay, right.
No.
Well, you had a bit differential draft this week, which was a great shout from you. Yeah, I just looking at his form recently, he's got 2 goals in his last 4 and an assist as well. He seems to be starting every game. Yeah, and I think one of these days he might kick off so much he gets a penalty. You never know.
I reckon it's a great shout. Madueke's actually looked really good when I've watched him. Yeah, I agree with that. And then I'm going to guess it as is.
Go on, then. Trossard? No, he was on there, but I'm going for someone who came on as a sub and scored emphatically with a Barnes assist. So I'm going for Callum Wilson.
Oh, you're going for. You think he'll come off the bench in all 4 games and score in all 4 goals for all 4 score 4 games, score 4 goals? There.
Or he might put, because obviously with the injuries and things like that, it might actually put Isaac on the wing and put
Wilson at centre back.
Yeah, Wilson at centre back coming up for corners. So I'm going for Wilson.
I've got to say, Callum Wilson is he's still got 8 goals this season, and he's look at the minutes he's played. It's just none here. Few 90s. They played 90 minutes 5 times this year. I think that was a stat. Yeah.
Can I just say about players coming on and scoring a one day? Will do. If you've not seen it, just type in Jeffrey Schlupp into YouTube.
Oh.
Wow, what a hit that was!
Wow, yeah, what a strike. Jeffrey Schlupp, worldies only. That's what he does. To be fair, what a play. So we will. Baz has noted those down, and whoever wins gets some pride. But I think it's good. It's interesting. Again, at this time of the season, we will look at our teams, and it's. I completely agree with what you say, Baz. It's what your aim is. It's what your goal is at the end of the season, and it's very difficult to have a goal in a game that's so heavily based on luck. But what I do like is you have to have sort of like one focus, because you can get pulled in a load of different ways. Like, for example, my focus is, as long as James Maddison doesn't go nuts, I'll be in the last eight of the cup. And I really want to focus on trying to win the cup. So we could all be through if we're, fingers crossed. We could all be through to the last 8 of this podcast, and
the pod team may be through as well.
The pod team, yeah, as well. And if we've got 4 of the last 8, pretty good achievement. I'll be heavily focused then on just, even if it's against one of your teams, trying to read what your guys' moves are going to be and what your players are going to put out there, and see if that's going to have an effect on the players that I'm going to bring in. Because I don't even look at the league anymore because it's irrelevant. Like, what we're going to do, 20th or 18th, it just doesn't really matter. So yeah, and then you just want to enjoy it from that perspective and have a good sweat, don't you, towards the end of the season? I think we've all got very similar goals. Lift that trophy. Baz wants to go 2 for 2. Before we've just talked about, we'll do a differential draft, but we'll do captain first. We'll change the order up. It's important to note that the deadline is early this week, and we're also a day early this week, but for different work related reasons. But Friday the 3rd of May at 6:30 is the deadline for Friday night football. Luton against Everton. Luton are at home for that game. That's live on Sky. Before it goes on to Saturday's Arsenal early kickoff against Bournemouth, Brentford, Fulham, Burnley, United, Burnley, Newcastle, Sheffield United, Nottingham Forest, City at home to Wolves, live on Sky under the lights at the Etihad. Well, it might have been under the lights because it's still light till 8 o'clock now. Brighton and Villa on kicking off Super Sunday with Chelsea, West Ham, Liverpool, Spurs, and then Monday night football where we can watch Man United lose to Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park. and get really heavily analysed by Jamie Carragher. Right, guys, who are we looking at in terms of captaincy? Because I think there is an absolute bucket load of options this week.
Scott? If I've got Kevin De Bruyne, I think I'm captaining Kevin De Bruyne. Just because I prefer a 5:30 kickoff over a 12:30 kickoff.
We all remember him smashing Wolves to pieces. Was it last season or the season before? God, I can't remember. He got a hat trick and an assist or something, didn't it?
Yeah. Oh. I think for me that is going to be it, because I just don't like early kickoffs. But I don't know, Arsenal against the title. I don't know. Yeah, for me it's an Arsenal or Man City play.
I think it kind of has to be, doesn't it? Even though we are looking at West Ham concede goals for fun, and you've got Cole Palmer at home there. Even Newcastle playing Burnley, but Burnley have got something to fight for. We've just talked about Newcastle's away record not being great. I mean, I definitely won't be captaining a Newcastle player because of that, compared to 2 home games for our title challengers, Arsenal City. It is Arsenal versus City, isn't it, really? And they're both on TV as well, so I'm going to hopefully be able to watch both games and sweat the captain either way. Baz, your thoughts on captaincy?
Like I say, it's either going to be an Arsenal or Man City. So I've got Saka, Havertz, Haaland, maybe even a potential Arsenal defender, maybe like a Ben White, just to be crazy and go different.
Never doing that.
You're never
Things Baz is never going to do.
Well,
never doing that.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because last time I gambled and got Jackson, didn't I? It cost me massively. So yeah. But yeah, I think I'm going to play it safe and probably just go Haaland.
It's really difficult because I feel like this is that game where I don't captain Haaland and he kicks me in the nuts. It's just happened to me so many times. But I'll be.
I know you picked Ben Davis, but you don't have to obviously say you got kicked in the nuts.
Oh, poor Ben Davis. I think that it will probably be Foden for me. I think so. It's so close, isn't it? And it is. It's the early kickoff versus the late kickoff. And my team at the moment, I've got Saka, Ødegaard, and Saliba. So, frustratingly, I've probably only got Saka as a captaincy option there. But Ødegaard can do bits in that game. He's only 12 points worse off than Havertz is since I wildcarded. So it has cost me 12 points, but it's closer than people think.
How many times did you captain Havertz?
Have I captained?
Sorry, Ødegaard.
I haven't captained either. I wouldn't have captained either of them at any point. But you would have captained Havertz when you were convinced otherwise.
Yeah, I picked the right captain last 2 weeks and I'm just being strategic in the cup and gone against it.
I've not captained Ødegaard at any point. I just don't. Did I captain Saka any of the games? Can't remember if I have or not. But I would have probably captained Saka over Havertz, but then I'll probably captain Havertz over Saka now, even though they're pretty close in points. It's a difficult one. But yeah, Foden for me, Ben White for Baz, De Bruyne for Scott. Sorry, Haaland for Baz. So we're all going City, and we're all going for a different City player at the moment. So it could be exciting. So Baz, your differential, just stick it on Havertz. That's your differential right there.
Might take the -4 and go for Ben White.
Speaking of differentials, let's do the differential draft. Who lost this week? I hope it were me.
It was, but obviously you've still got a player left, Ben Davis, but he might be injured due to obviously the kick. You got 14 points.
Terrible. What an awful week.
Yeah. Scott got 15. And I got 18, but I still got 3 players, and majority of all my points came from my Madueke. Yeah.
So what would you say? Me lost.
No, you second. So
what? Alex, I'm only 1 point per. I don't have any players, do I?
You've got Johnson.
Oh, okay.
It's Alex who got 14. Then you Scott. You got 15. Yeah. You still got Johnson to play. And then I'm on 18 and I've still got 3 players left. So,
Julio Iglesias.
I mean, I've got the most obvious first pick ever then, because still Havertz is under 10% owned. So it's Havertz at 7.7. Easiest first pick I think I've had all season.
Scott.
Oh, yeah, it is me, isn't it? Sorry. Just, just smiling away. One night takes more
Just-
time. Takes
just
more time.
Smiling away.
I forgot we had this to do. I don't know why. I don't know why I forgot we had it to do.
That's brilliant. I even reminded you that we had different draft differential picks as well.
Yeah.
We're gonna do
Well, I'm going to go for someone that I went for a few weeks ago and didn't do anything today, but I'm going to Declan Rice on the 10. No, I'm not. Take that back. Ignore. I'm going to go for Trossard.
Nice. Baz?
Well, I was going to go for Trossard, but that's obviously changed. I'm going to roll the dice and I'm going to go Grealish.
Oh, that's exciting. I will go for my man, 0.2%, Madueke.
Going to go for Declan Rice. I've just really hit into the early fixture as well, and I've gone for 2 Arsenal players.
I love that.
I'm going to pick Livramento.
I'll get my goalkeeper pick done, and I will go for Ortega at 2%.
Okay. I will. God, what's happened to his career? Jesus, he's not playing much
What's happened to his career?
anymore. John Stones. Oh, Ortega, baby. Get him out of the way.
Oh no.
I'm
Did you have him in mind?
No, I've just picked him before you.
You've not. You did. Did you actually?
Yes.
Oh, good grief. I didn't know you picked him.
Oh, I'm really
Honestly
sorry.
didn't.
I'm really sorry, listeners. But I'm also not sorry because this is part of your entertainment. If you still listen to the podcast when we're nearly an hour in and we're doing this at the end, then you love us. And I think there's only Guy Ferguson still listening, to be honest, isn't there?
I'm going to go for under 1%. How many what's maximum amount of players we can have for each team? 3.
3.
Yeah.
Are you on Arsenal again?
Tomiyasu.
I was literally going to go for Tomiyasu as my next pick as well.
I've only gone for him.
I'm going to
Should've been
pick
better,
my. I'm going to pick my goalkeeper. I'm going to go for Matt Sells.
Terrible.
Oh, crikey! Well, we're all struggling, aren't we, for striking options? I'm really
Yeah,
torn.
I've not even thought about striking yet.
I'm really torn, but his recent form is making me go for Mikel Antonio at 1.9%. He scored 4 in his last 5. I think that's right.
Yeah, he's looking really good actually, Antonio.
Yeah, I think he looks really good. Hence why I transferred him out of draft. Probably do that for that reason.
Decent shout. I'll go for Fleck.
I'm going for Ivan Toney.
Oh, Mr. Tony.
Back in, isn't he?
And I'm going to go for. Do you know what? I'll go for my other pick that I went for before. Crystal Palace away. Mr. Harry Maguire at 3.1%.
Yeah, don't mind it. I will go. Antonio's gone, hasn't he? Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Tony's gone.
John Terry's gone.
Tony.
Tony. Oh yeah, the strikers. We've really messed up with the strikers, haven't we?
I can think of 2.
Yeah, I've got.
Oh yeah, we'll go for big Chris Wood.
Yeah, Chris Wood is on the list. Have you gone for a striker yet, Balser?
Yeah, I picked Tony, even though Wilson
okay.
was on my list as well. But I thought Burnley away, and Burnley's got something to play for. I'm gonna go for my man Hudson-Odoi.
Yeah, Hudson-Odoi, man, he was on my list as well at 0.3%. The other striker had Chimiti and for Everton potentially. I think he looked.
Calvert-Lewin will probably be back though, won't he?
Maybe. And then Muniz at 6%.
He was ill.
Yeah, Muniz at 6% was the other option, but he's obviously over 5. Yeah, it was Wilson. It was between Antonio Wood and Wilson. So That was the one that I was considering. But Tony's 4.9, is he?
Yeah.
4.9.
I've got no under 10 like usual.
Of course not. Well,
They want a lot. They want a lot of options actually. I only went the Rise line just for it.
Yeah, I had Dubravka and Muniz were the only other two on my list of under 10 with Havertz. That was it, because Dubravka's 8.2, I think, isn't he?
Morris.
Oh, well, Carl Morris, big shout. So Ortega, Maguire, Havertz, Madueke, and Antonio. That's what I've got.
Sells, Livramento, Grealish, Hudson-Odoi, and Ivan Toney.
Flecken, Tomiyasu, Declan Rice, Trossard. Come on, Arsenal. And Chris Wood.
Very nice. Can we finish off the podcast by talking about Nicholas Jackson briefly and how he was picked in like so many wildcard teams from the top, like the top accounts, and it's just I still don't really understand when you've got 5 midfielders and you've got Isak and Haaland where they think Jackson's going to go in. I mean, he's been benched by everyone this week really who's picked him, which is fine. I know it's for bench boost 37 maybe if that's the reason, but I don't really get it. Can you convince me otherwise, Baz?
No, I know Lewis Green's captained him. Who's the owner of the Fantasy Premier League on Facebook group. But
yeah, I've seen a lot in there. This is what I'm asking you for. Like, what's been the reason that I can't understand it. Don't get me wrong, he's not a bad draft player and stuff. Like, it's having your team.
It's just one of them. If he starts putting these chances away, because he's like he kind of reminds me when Drogba first came to Chelsea, and then after 6 months, everything he touched just turned to gold. But Jackson's still taking a lot longer, so maybe next season Jackson might be better. But are they going to put him wide because then Kunku will be fit? So yeah, it's a weird one on me. I wouldn't have had Jackson. I'd rather have Solanke or potentially even Nunes.
Yeah. Scott, anything to add before we wrap up?
Hell no.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us this week, everybody. Don't forget to like the video on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. Join our 40 strong subscribers. And also don't forget to give us 5 stars wherever you get your podcasts from. Most of you get them from Spotify. About 50% of our listeners come from there. So that's great. Thank you for doing that. Continue to add to that number. And to follow us on social media platforms, Unfootball Pod, Unfootball P, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We're a day early this week at the All in Football Fantasy Premier League Show podcast. But do not forget that it's a Friday deadline, Friday the 3rd of May. Barry, goodbye for now.
Goodbye.
Scott, goodbye for now.
Cheerio.
Goodbye from me.